And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, turtles of all ages. This is JPL Jordan Persone. It's Kayfabe Corner. This week, I am joined by Bobby Fonta. Bobby, how you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself, sir?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing these crazy and weird times, man? You holding up?
I am. I'm got through all my snacks, so I'm good now. So I've been
Well,
doing
that's not
pretty
good.
well.
If you got through all the snacks, you got to save some.
I know it was supposed to be like 2 months worth, 3 weeks done.
Hey, at least you got a few weeks worth out of it, man.
Absolutely.
So, when's the last time you wrestled? Are you working right now, or what's going on?
I am. In Daytona, it was, I want to say about 2-3 weeks ago was the last time I did an event
That's good.
in, well, Port Orange, but in the Daytona area. That was definitely a lot of fun. Felt good. Felt good after not being in there for like a long time.
Oh, was that your first one back too, or?
It like the first one in a little while. Like I did like one show and did like another, but then there was like a couple weeks break and like more, and then I got back into it again. So I was like, oh, thank you. I needed this.
That's good, man. No, he just sounds more active than some here. And a lot of stuff obviously has shut down in recent times for the usually good reason. I mean, let's start off. Let's go back to the beginning here before we get off into current events. Were you a fan growing up, man? Or where did the wrestling begin with you?
It actually started in 1990. The first thing I ever watched was Survivor Series, the night that The Undertaker debuted.
Mm.
I had family that were really big into it because I'm originally from Virginia, and not much happens in Virginia, like in the area that I was at. So for me, family, like when I visit them, they would always watch WWF or WCW. They introduced me into Survivor Series because we were there for like a Thanksgiving type thing.
Mm.
So they just happened to watch it that night, and then I got intrigued by like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, like all those guys.
Were they your favorite? Who was your number one guy growing up? Who were you a really big fan of?
As a kid, Hulk Hogan, just because he was the guy I got into. Absolutely. Like I feel like any kid from the 90s is going to tell you like Hulk Hogan, just like if any kid from 2002, 5 is going to say John Cena or things like that. As later time went on, I started becoming a fan of other people along with Hogan, but definitely Hogan was the guy that got me started on everything.
I'm a big fan of the year 1990. That's my birth year. So
There you go. The 90s were great, especially 1990. That was a good time. I was 2, so I was still really young at the time.
Was it when did you start having the idea to get to be a pro wrestler? Was it pretty much right away, or was it something that you started thinking of later on in high school? When was the first time you're like, I'm gonna be a pro wrestler?
So give like a long story type short. Well, no, I'll go on for. So as a kid, I always said I wanted to be a wrestler, but I was like 4 or 5 years old. So it's like, yeah, I'm sure he will be. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's just kid dreams. He's going to get out of it when he gets older, things like that. So it was around my first year of high school where I actually like middle school, things like that. But high school was when I was like, I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously. And I actually looked at wrestling like close by, as close as I can, because I was in at the time a small town called Bridgewater, Virginia, and there's not really a whole lot that happens in that area. So it was like trying to find, okay, which one is the closest place I can go to when it comes to train. And that's when I started taking it a little bit more seriously as around high school. But ever since a kid, middle school, I was like, yep, I'm going to do it no matter what.
So when do you start? Are you what age and where do you start to train?
So sorry, I got to backtrack. So I started training at the age of 15, and I had my
Young.
first match actually at 16. The place I trained at was Boogie's Wrestling Camp, which is run by Hall of Famer Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant. It was about 2 hours outside of where I lived at. So what I would do is every Sunday he would go from 12 to 4 every single Sunday. We would every Sunday leave from my house around 10 in the morning, get there about 12, get back around a little after 6 after getting food or something like that. That was my thing almost pretty much every single Sunday for probably about a year, I would say.
Now, was the name always Bobby Fonta, or where does that name come from?
So yes, how it actually started as a rib on me. Because like I said, I started at 15, so it was before like all this and everything. So at the time, the movie theaters were showing regular commercials. Like any movie you went to see, they show commercials. So the people that were training me, went to see a movie, and one of the commercials that came up were the Fanta drink commercials. And for some reason, I was the first one they thought of. So they're like, you should go
Fanta,
by that name.
Fanta, don't you want to? Fanta, Fanta.
Every Sunday ever since then, they're like, hey, it's Fonta, Fonta, Fonta. They would start doing the dance, and then they'd punch me in the face.
That's good to know, because I'll be honest with you, for the first time I saw your name, I was wondering that in the back of my mind.
Exactly. That's how it all. Yeah, it's everyone's like, where'd you get it from? It was from the drinks.
Were you cool with that idea? Was it just something, it was given to you, so you ran with it, or was there any kind of backlash in your mind?
No, because I put the O instead of the A.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think it's safe. It started out as a joke, and then like when they were going through like, hey, you're going to be doing a show, I couldn't think of another name, so I was like, I'm just going to go with that one, and it just kind of stuck with it. And even when I moved from Virginia to Florida, I probably had a chance to change it, but I was like, I like it, I'm going to stick with it.
Have you ever done anything else? Have you ever been under a mask with one match randomly, or have you ever been billed as anything else?
Yes, I've done 2 different characters under a mask. One I did under a mask because it was supposed to be 2 twins that were going to do it, but one of them couldn't make it, and it was a promotion that was ran in Florida. They only had one show, and it was supposed to be like a lucha libre style show. Biff. So the gimmick behind it is that we're going to make him look strong. So it was me and the other twin just under hood, just getting crap kicked out of us by Biff just repeatedly for probably a good 5 minutes, I would say. And then I got talked into another character, and they gave me the gear and everything. His name was K-Ro. He was supposed to be a guy from South Korea. And so I put like a little marker like on my chest to make it look different than how I was when I was wrestling with Bobby. So, and they gave me like separate boots, separate gear, so no one knew it was me. And it wasn't even my idea. The guy I wrestled that night was like, yeah, I'm wrestling the guy from Korea. I'm like, no, you're not. It's just me.
It's just me.
Exactly. And I did that one, actually, other shows besides that one. I did SCW in Florida, I think twice, wearing that mask, because they liked it, and they're like, hey, why don't you come do it as this? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I have the gear at home. I can do it.
Would you say there's any difference? You mentioned you're in Virginia, now you're in Florida. Any difference between the 2 scenes?
Yes. And these aren't like bad things. So Virginia is really, really tough to do wrestling in. Virginia has a state athletic commission. So any boxing, MMA, any combat sports, you have to get like a license for, and then the people promoting the show have to get a license. And it's really, really expensive. This was 2000, because when I trained at 16, I couldn't wrestle in Virginia until I was 18, because that's the rule. You have to be 18 to get it. So I would travel
that, actually, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was tough. So I had to do shows in West Virginia and North Carolina, places that didn't have those type of restrictions to it, which was great because by the time I got to Virginia, I was like 2-3 years in, so I had a little bit more experience in it. You had to get like a physical, you had to get a complete physical done, and then you had to pay for the license. So you're looking at between the both about $100, and you had to do it every year. Same thing with the promoters, and then there's some stricter rules that I didn't like. So accidents happen. So say if I'm in a match and I start bleeding, they make you finish the match within 2 moves. If you don't finish it, you get a fine. So they put a lot of restrictions on there. That's why wrestling in Virginia is very rare, because you have so many type of restrictions that they had, and they try to add more, but it didn't work. That kept people from running shows. That's why it's like when you hear like WCW being in Atlanta, Georgia, Florida, things like that, one of the states is not there is Virginia, because it was a pain to run. And there's not a lot of stuff to do in certain parts of Virginia. So really, like, people from all lives would just come to the shows and enjoy it that way. So like I could do a show in Orlando, and it's in a big city, and a lot of people come, or Tampa or things like that. I go to like a place where it seems like there's no sign of life in any city, and it still packs up just the same as like if you're going to some of these other shows. So it's like, to that aspect, it's the same. It's just, it's really, really tough to do things in Virginia than it would be in Florida, which to me makes Florida a little bit better, because then you have a lot more options. It's a little bit more things to see, a little bit more things to do, compared to Virginia, where it's like there may be only a handful because nobody likes running there, or at least smaller time.
Have you been back anytime since to Virginia?
I haven't done any shows in Virginia, but I have gone back plenty of times to go to Boogie's camp, to see people train there, things like that. One of the guys I met, and if you ever talk to him, he probably doesn't even remember, because this was probably, let's say 10 years ago, was Adam Page. because he was a graduate from the school, and the year that I went back to see everybody, that was the year he graduated. So if you ever make the trip to Shawsville, Virginia, which is outside of Roanoke, they have banners of everyone's name that graduated. So I believe he was the year after me, or a second year, but I went a couple of years for their graduation ceremony, and I met him, said hi to him, and then we'd do matches and stuff like that. But I've gone back a few times to see the school, see family, see pretty much anything I can.
Is the school still up there? It's still
It
running?
is absolutely, yeah. It's a neat setup because it's free for anybody to come watch it. He has a little bit of a Hall of Fame, little museum, so you can see some like pictures, signed pictures, things like that. You get to watch people train. He has, it almost looks like a mini stadium a little bit. Like he has like these, what is the word I'm looking for? Like little, not stools, but like benches. So he has like little benches and things like that. And it's not a big place. Like the ring, I think, is like 12 by 12, maybe 14 by 14, but it's a small ring. So he could fit a lot of people in there if he really wants to. And his house is right next to it. So it's an easy walk for him to go, lock it, unlock it, things like that. But it's a definitely unique, different, pretty cool, intimate place to be able to go to. I'd say if anybody's in the area, it's free to go on a Sunday. Take a look. He loved Boogie. Jimmy Valiant's one of the nicest guys like ever. He's very open, very friendly. You can tell of a guy who has a lot of experience because even from other trainers, not negatively, like they're a little bit more tougher. He's there to have fun and be tough at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's always the best mix, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Tell me more about that ring, man. 14, what? I don't think I've ever been in one. Is that different? Is that weird?
It wasn't at the time because that was the first time I ever
The ring
did
you
it.
knew at the time, yeah.
Absolutely. Then when I started doing shows, I was like, this is really awkward. Plus, so you see rings take apart, things like that. That's a specially made ring, so it's welded together. So it can't be taken apart, can't be anything. So when he would be done, he would just loosen up the ropes and keep everything set up. So the ring could be no way taken apart. And I remember once the ring, a week before our graduation ceremony, the ring broke and the ropes just all sunk in. It's not something that you could just take apart, put back together. He had to call a welder to come in and re-weld it back together to get the ring to set up the way that it did. It was like, this is crazy. So when I did my first show and saw how the ring was set up and done differently, I was like, this is different than what his ring is, because you have to take time, put it together, structure, everything like that. Where they're just like, hey, ropes are tight and get in and start having fun.
Anyone besides Boogie that you give a little credit to for really helping you along the way, like in those early days or even later on?
Oh yeah, early days, like from that school, the four big trainers that were there was a guy named Sean Christian, Scotty Rocker, Rick Kelly, and Kamikaze Kid. Kamikaze Kid was based in North Carolina, so he did a lot of shows like CWF Mid Atlantic when it was the AWA at one point. Sean Christian did a lot of shows in Virginia. Scotty Rocker did shows in Virginia. I think him and Rick Kelly did shows for Memphis Wrestling a couple of times. They were very helpful because they definitely got me strongest base and got me to learn how to like land, how to do certain things. So they were definitely very strong points in the launching pad. When I came to Florida, I joined a school called FXE. With that school, Biff was very good. There was Simon Says, AJ Gallant. Those guys had different structures on everything. John Allen was very, very helpful at the time. Dylan Knight. There was tons of people that surprisingly actually put a lot of effort into me that really probably didn't need to, because if you look at like physiques in wrestling, I'm not close to any of those physiques. Like I'm better, but not like how those physiques are. And I'm really short compared to like someone like Biff, who's a big, big guy who's like just by look wise should have been signed to begin with somewhere. So I was surprised how much effort they actually put in for me, just from how wrestling is mindset wise, is how people think it is and what it is. But a lot of people put in so much effort for me.
Over the years, what's some of your favorite matches, man? Who have you really clicked with?
Ooh, definitely Biff. As me and him were roommates, and so we got at one point. So me and him got along like really, really good. So we had some great matches, whether it be for vintage wrestling. We did a match at WXW. There's so many companies we wrestled. I guess we probably wrestled 300 times easily without questions asked, and still doing it in Daytona when we go there. Simon Says was really good because he's very, very smart psychology wise when it comes to matches, to where it's like, oh, if oh yeah, this was the craziest bump I ever did, and I don't know why I did it. So
Oh, okay.
I've heard of that website before, lordsofpain.net, and someone told me they uploaded part of the
Yeah.
match. Like, are you kidding? And so I went back and I was like, oh, it's great. Because to me, like, getting recognized for stuff like that was a rare occasion for me, because like I said, I'm a smaller guy. So to have like things like that or other types of things happen was a really cool experience. But yeah, I would say Biff, Simon Says, Sean Christian in Virginia, he carried me so much because I was so early on. He knew how to get past make my positives look good and my negative. He was the guy that actually kind of pitched the dancing character, because he's like, you can wrestle. He's like, now let's add some comedy to it, and then you can work out your negatives, positives that way until your negative become your positive. And there's probably a few others as well. Mike Cruz, like so many guys that I could think of that it's like I click well with that, especially if I get like one or two matches with them.
You just kind of actually alluded to something I meant to ask a little earlier. The character, Bobby Fonta, how would you describe it?
He's a fun-loving guy. Knows he doesn't have rhythm, but he still does it anyway, just because he likes to have a good time. The heel Bobby Fonta just does not shut up. Like, never shuts his mouth, and it works because I'm so small. And if you see a small guy run his mouth like he thinks he's the biggest guy in the room, it works, and it makes very people upset. And then the other Bobby, the dancing Bobby, likes to make his opponents look foolish by some of the comedy stuff that he does. Where like I would make a guy look up, stomp on his toe. He would bend over for a monkey, like a back body drop. I'd hop over, smack him on the butt, turn around, arm drag, like different little funny things like that. So he's going to have a good time and embarrass his opponent at the same time.
All right, and we're back. Technical difficulties, but that is as life will sometimes be. We talk about matches. What are some of your favorite promotions you've worked throughout the years? What locker rooms do you enjoy being in?
So one of my favorite ones I've ever worked, one of my favorite ones was one called Championship Pro Wrestling out of West Virginia, because that was the first promotion I ever worked for in 2005. Yeah, 5. I had to think of that one. So that was one of my favorite ones to be able to work. And then also New Age Wrestling in Virginia. I did get to work a few shows, or AWA Mid-Atlantic at the time that they were, when they were reintroducing the AWA back for a little bit. A lot of ones here in Florida, like I do love Go Wrestle, Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling. FXE was a good one when they were running shows, not the newer one, but the older FXE ones. Pretty much almost all of them I had a great time with.
What are some guys here in Florida or even Virginia or wherever that you haven't had the chance to work with that you would love to have a match with?
Oh man. That's a good one. That is a very good one. Is I've worked a lot of people in Florida, like even some that I've like never like be like, oh, I'd like to work that guy, and then I got a chance to work with him. Because for Tampa Bay, I got to work Snoop Strikes. Go Wrestle, I got to work Saeed. I guess I have to think on that one, because I feel like I've worked a lot of people that sometimes. Well, one of the guys I really wanted to work with was Dante Marquise Carter, and I'm doing that now with him. So the. Can you see? Can you hear me, right?
Yeah, last I heard was Dante Marquise, and you're just now starting to work with DMC.
So yeah, he's one guy that I had a small match with like years ago, but we got rained out, so we had to finish that soon. Pretty much maybe Samuel C from like ACW and stuff. I've never wrestled him, and he's very athletic and very gifted from what I could tell. So he'd be a guy I would like to work with.
That'd be a good one. That'd be a good one.
Mm-hmm. At Virginia, I'm not sure who all's there, just because I haven't really kept up with the Virginia independent scene, so I can't really say there. But I'll pretty much go there and work anybody if they ever need it.
So picture this: the show's over with, and a kid comes up to you and he goes, "Bobby, I'm such a fan. I want to be a pro wrestler when I grow up. Do you have any advice?"
Uh, Definitely finish school. Trust me on that one. I didn't think it was that big of a deal either. Then I realized that it's a big deal. Uh, Finish school. Look for place. Make sure the place that you train is someone that you have seen on TV. Um, I always like recommending that because a lot of them know then how the TV wrestling works compared to independents. So you want to make sure you have someone that's familiar with TV because one, if you have that opportunity to where you could go to like WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, NWA, anywhere, Impact, you kind of know how to deal with that type of environment. So you know how to be, how to act. But I would just tell them make sure whoever you go to the school with, you've seen them on TV before.
Very good, very good. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I hope still doing this, whether it be still independent or more on TV standpoints. As long as I'm still doing this in 5 years, I'm
Very nice. And any plugs you want to give away? Any upcoming appearances or anything you want to drop right here?
happy. So the next appearance I'm going to be at is going to be July 11th and Daytona for Go Wrestle, and then I'm from there we'll see. I think they're doing one on the 25th, but I know for sure I'll be there July 11th.
Very nice. And obviously, as things will go along, more things will open up. I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of Bobby Fonta. Oh, Bobby, any last words? Any parting thing? Any parting wisdom you want to drop on us here in the corner?
Yeah, I would definitely tell people, and this is going to be very cliche. I would definitely tell anybody that if someone's yeah, sorry about that. I would
No, you're
definitely
good.
say, I would definitely say as a last parting word that if anybody tells you that you can't get somewhere, whether it be WWE, Impact, AEW, NWA, any of those places, don't let them talk you down from it. People, not the people that I've trained with, but outside of that, some people are saying because of a certain aspect, I wouldn't be able to get it as far as the independent. I've been very blessed with a lot of stuff that I've been able to do. Whether it be I've gotten lucky working with Impact, I've gotten lucky working with WWE. No one ever thought I would ever get that far. And then even if it was just small time, even though I actually had those opportunities, no one thought that could get them, and then I actually got them. So if anybody actually tells you there's no way that you're ever going to get to that standpoint, they're probably lying. And just keep pushing, keep trying, keep doing keep working hard at it. You'll eventually get there.
Love it, man. Good, great parting words here. Well, Bobby, man, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm not sure people were able to see these last few minutes, but we're able to hear that golden, crispy voice. If you can, check out Go Wrestle. Check out all the places that he'll be upcoming appearances. Bobby, I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely, man. That was Bobby Fonta. This is JPO. This was Kayfabe Corner. Good night. Good luck. And we all love you more than you'll ever know.